Today, we're jumping into the incredible true story of William O. Douglas. Now, you might know him as a Supreme Court justice, but his greatest battle? It wasn't fought in any courtroom. It was fought all alone, in the water. This is a powerful story about facing down and ultimately conquering a truly profound fear. But let's start with a question for you. What really happens when fear completely takes over? I mean, when reason just flies out the window and all that's left is pure, raw terror? Just hold that thought because we're about to see exactly what that looks like. So, our story kicks off right here, along the Yakima River. For young William Douglas, this wasn't just some picturesque river. Oh no, it was a source of constant, terrifying warnings from his mother. She made sure the memory of every drowning was fresh in his mind, really hammering home this idea that water was a dangerous, deadly thing. And that leads us right into Act 1. A fear is born. We're going to see exactly how this deep, deep aversion to water got its start. It all started when he was just a little kid, maybe 3 or 4 years old. He's at the beach with his dad, just standing there in the surf, and bam, a wave just knocks him flat and completely swallows him up. For a moment, he's buried, can't breathe. Now, his father just laughed, thought it was all part of the fun. But for that little boy, the terror of being overpowered by that water was very, very real. The seed of fear was officially planted. But that early scare, that was just the warm-up act. Now we get to the moment he simply calls the misadventure, an incident at the YMCA pool that was going to change absolutely everything. So picture this. Douglas is about 10 or 11, and he's just starting to get comfortable in the water, paddling around with water wings. He's sitting by the pool all by himself when this big 18-year-old bully spots him, yells, "Hi, skinny," and just like that, picks him up and chucks him right into the 9-foot deep end. Now, here's what's so fascinating. As he's sinking, his mind is still working. He isn't panicking, not yet anyway. He actually comes up with this perfectly clear, rational plan. Okay, I'll let myself hit the bottom, then I'll use it like a springboard to launch myself right back to the surface. Simple, right? Well, what actually happened was a complete nightmare. This slide shows you the terrifying gap between his plan and reality. He expected to shoo up like a cork, but instead, he rose so slowly. He thought he'd grab a rope, but his hands just grabbed at nothing but water. He was suffocating and his limbs just wouldn't respond. He was totally paralyzed. And this is the moment reason just checks out. He describes it as this pure, absolute terror that you just can't understand unless you've been there yourself. He was screaming under the water, but of course, no sound could get out. He tried to fight, but his body just wasn't his anymore. His legs felt paralyzed, like they were just dead weights hanging there. And he felt this powerful force just pulling him down again and again. He was completely, utterly helpless. After a third terrifying trip to the bottom, all that effort just stopped. The terror faded away into this strange, drowsy kind of peace. He felt himself floating, almost like he was in his mother's arms. And then, as he puts it so chillingly, the curtain of life fell. He just blacked out. Now, obviously he was saved, but the experience left a massive scar. And that brings us to Act 2, the aftermath, and the long, dark shadow that day at the pool would cast over his life. See, this is the really crucial part. This wasn't just a bad memory. It became a permanent handicap. For years, that terror followed him everywhere he went. It totally ruined fishing trips. It meant he couldn't enjoy canoeing or boating with his friends. The fear had literally stolen entire pieces of his life. Finally, after years of being held captive by this fear, he decided he was done. He was not going to let it control him anymore. It was time to hire a professional instructor and face the water head on. And the instructor's method was absolutely brilliant. He didn't just throw Douglas back in the deep end. Nope, he deconstructed the entire act of swimming. First, he set up a rope and pulley so Douglas felt safe. Then he had him practice breathing exercises hundreds and hundreds of times. Then kicking at the side of the pool for weeks on end. He patiently built a swimmer piece by piece until finally it all came together. So the instructor's job was done, but Douglas knew, deep down, he wasn't really finished. He had the physical skills now, sure, but the mental battle, that final fight against the terror itself, that had to be won alone. So what does he do? He goes to a lake all by himself, and sure enough, out in the middle of the water, that old familiar terror starts to creep back in. But this time was different. Instead of shrinking away, he faced it. He looked it right in the eye, he even gave it a name, and he challenged it. And to prove, once and for all, that the victory was real, he swam. And I don't mean just a little bit. He swam 2 full miles across Lake Wentworth. He used every stroke he knew, the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke. He didn't just swim, he took back the water. The terror tried to come back, but he just laughed and swam on, leaving it in his wake. And this incredible personal victory gave him this profound insight, one that was famously captured by his friend, President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Because he had faced the actual sensation of dying, Douglas understood the truth. The real enemy was never death. It was the fear of it. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. This story isn't just about learning to swim, is it? It's about how staring down your deepest, darkest terror gives you this incredible will to live. He felt released, totally free to climb mountains and walk any trail he wanted because he learned how to just brush fear aside. Douglas's story is such a powerful reminder that any fear, even the most paralyzing kind of terror, can be taken apart, piece by piece, with a determined approach. So we're going to end where we started, with that question for you. After hearing his story, what fear, big or small, are you ready to face?